Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We will go ahead and open up our Government Affairs Committee meeting, and appreciate you all being here. Appreciate our members and presenters that are here, and we are going to go through these bills on the agenda, not necessarily in the order that they're presented here, but we are going to start with House Bill 409 at the top. Representative Lauren Daniel is here. If you'll step up to the table, and if you'll remind us, we did hear this bill last year, and I believe we passed it out of committee, and it just didn't make it to the House floor. Is that right?
That is correct. Everyone was favorable, so hopefully I have not changed it. So hopefully that's how it goes. So I'm working from LC 472327S. Hopefully that's what you guys have. Basically what this does, it just allows local authorities, only water and sewer authorities, to dispose of real property. So a lot of times the stuff that's on the books in these authorities are kind of antiquated, and so there's no standard in terms of how to get rid of these easements. And so what this would allow, basically would allow them to give it back to the property owner that it is on without having to spend the taxpayer money to garner appraisals, because a lot of times these easements are so small and the appraisal will cost $1,000 when the easement's worth $200 or $300. And so this is just an effort to kind of streamline that process. I did have some of you guys' former colleague, Andy Welch, who's a municipal attorney, was the one who said he's running into this issue a lot, and other municipal attorneys are as well. And so that's kind of the impetus of the bill. And any questions you guys have, I'll take.
All right. Looks like we do have a question from Representative Burnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing the bill. I just have a couple questions. One, what is the difference between the changes that you're trying to make and the original code?
So, I mean, everything that's underlined would be the changes. I mean, what do you mean in terms of?
Well, can you let me talk? Thank you. What it is that someone came to me and they wanted to know, would this make it easier to take away people's property?
No, this is actually trying to make it easier to give it back to them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Number 15, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is, does GMA or ACCG have a position on this?
No, ma'am.
They're in the room.
No, I mean, they can speak to it.
Yes, I got distracted momentarily, but I believe ACCG was asked a question. All right, so ACCG is neutral. All right, we've got another question from Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for working on the bill, and this has improved it, and I appreciate your hard work on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for presenting the bill, and I see GMA is here and maybe want to...
GMA is actually supportive of the bill.
Okay, GMA supports the bill, and ACCG is neutral, so there you go. Thanks for bringing the bill. Do I hear a motion to move? All right, we have a motion to move. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, it moves.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, Chairman Todd Jones is here, and he's going to present his bill. Do you need to go in any certain order? You have two. You have House Bill, let's see, 585 and House Rule 303.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just focus on the enabling legislation, which would be the House bill.
Okay.
And we can always turn to the constitutional amendment in terms of the question, if in fact that's the will of the committee. Is that acceptable?
That works for me. So you want to start with House Bill 585?
I went running out of my office and did not pick up my folder, and
You need a copy of the
I
bill?
do, yes,
All right,
because
I think we
went
can do
running
that.
out. Be
We have some extra copies.
We had a little AI bill that we needed to get to.
Yes. And I'll remind the committee that we did hear this bill last year and passed it out of committee. And Chairman Jones, remind us, what happened? Did we just run out of time to get it to the House floor,
Yes.
essentially? Okay.
Mhm.
So we've already passed this out of committee once.
Yes, and thank you very much, Chairman LaHood. Is it okay if I proceed? Members of the committee, this is the exact bill from last year. Nothing has changed. The reason for that is the dates did not have to change because the contemplation is that the question would have been called during the 2024 election cycle, not during the 2023 municipal cycle. The essence of the bill is as follows. For those of you who are not aware, impact fees, according to our Constitution, can be levied by the counties within the state of Georgia for new construction. So effectively, things like roads, parks, libraries. I don't pretend to know everything in terms of local government, but effectively, when you're thinking about growth, specifically through new construction, that's what the impact fees are intended to do. However, there is no authority within the Constitution for a school board to levy any impact fees for new construction. So imagine a county like Forsyth County, fast-growing, Cherokee, etc., and you have these individuals and the people and families move into these counties, and we're happy to have them. But for every time that we build a new home, and we need new roads, and we need parks and libraries, but we also need schools. And a lot of the times the folks are moving to these areas because of the schools, and we need to be able to give the authority to the Board of Education to levy these impacts fees. Essentially what this bill does, and I'd like to turn to, excuse me. I'd like to turn to line 40 through 45. It permits a high-growth school system to levy a school impact fee. Coincidentally, of the 180 school systems within the state of Georgia, today, the only school system that would apply is Forsyth County Schools. In terms of the growth rate that would be required, 20%, and in terms of the total expenditures of $250 million. So what we're asking for is for a general bill and ultimately a constitutional amendment that would allow us to move forward and tread new ground and allow us to be able to provide Forsyth County's Board of Education the ability to assess these impact fees. Now, the Board of Education, according to the bill, will be guided and at least be able to get counsel from a committee. And that committee, which is basically the advisory committee, would be able to provide to the Board of Education effectively, and I'm going to give an example. By no means am I what I'm about to say is not in the bill, and nor will I speak for a committee that has not been formed yet. But an example would be the assessment such as commercial construction, we would not expect there to be an impact fee. Senior citizen living over 55 would not expect there to be an impact fee. If there was any type of student housing, for those of you who do not know, UNG continues to grow in Forsyth County, and we're proud of that. So we may end up having student housing there. If so, I would not expect an impact fee. However, for homes that we would expect there to be children moving into the school system, I would not be surprised for that advisory committee to give the recommendation to the Board of Education to assess an impact fee, no different than the county today can assess an impact fee regarding roads, libraries, and parks. At that point, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop the explanation and see if there's any questions I can answer for the committee.
Okay, thanks for the overview, and we do have a question from Representative Burnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How is it that Forsyth is the only county that can assess these fees?
truthfully, Representative Bernal, we have tried to move this legislation in the past with, I'm going to say, statewide implementation. That was criticized wildly by several groups. We then changed the language to say may assess these impact fees, meaning we were not putting any requirement on a school system to, but if they wanted to, they're locally elected, let them assess as they deem appropriate. That also was roundly criticized. We were hoping, in order to work with the associations, to work with, I'll say, the business community, and also address what right now is the fastest growing school system in the state, why don't you give us a chance to, in a sense, let's launch it through there. Let's demonstrate, just like they've seen in Florida. Florida has statewide ability to do school impact fees, and I don't think anyone would argue that that has not impeded their ability to grow. As a matter of fact, they are now the third largest state in the union, surpassing New York in the last census. So I don't think anyone would ever say, well, Florida's slow growth because of the impact fees. So we're hoping if this moves, as I hope it moves, we're able to demonstrate that those impact fees only helped improve education in Forsyth County, did not impede business, did not impede growth, and allowed us to basically show to the rest of the state, go ahead and see if we can then broaden it here at the General Assembly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm only asking because I have a bill that's similar that only applies to our school district. And so I was just trying to get some clarification.
Sure.
All right, we have a few more lights blinking. We'll go to Chairman Darlene Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having come from Florida, I'm familiar with those impact fees. But I do have a couple questions. Does it say in here, I couldn't find it, who chooses the advisory committee? Is it going to be members of the board? Are they going to choose people from their districts, or who actually, or does the county pick them?
Yeah, so effectively, when you think of the advisory committee, you can see that it starts on line 52 and then goes into line 56, which talks about the impact advisory committee shall be composed in the same manner as provided for the developmental impact fees. And if you go to that code section 3671-5, and I'm sure there's someone sitting behind me who has it better than me, but here's how I say it in general way. About 50% of it will come from the development community, and about 50% of it from the community itself.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, if I could have another follow-up. Does it say specifically how they would spend those money? Is it going to be building schools, or do they need more buses, or maybe new driveways in and out of schools? I just wondered if we have anything in here. But it's going to be up to the school board once they set this impact fee. It could be in this neighborhood they need a new elementary school or whatever. We're not telling them how to spend it. It's just...
Correct. These locally elected individuals answer, of course, to all of Forsyth County.
That same advisory council will...
Well, the advisory council does not, the advisory council is appointed, but the Board of Education members today is a 5-member board. They answer to the citizens of Forsyth County. So I would imagine, just like any other board, they will effectively lay that out at public meetings, letting them know how we're going to spend the impact fees, what our intent is on that. I can't speak for the Board of Education, but in the past, as we have been building schools, and by the way, I think we've built 5 high schools just in the last decade, just to give you an idea of the growth. Every time we're growing, every time we have new schools, elementary, middle, or high school, we're reshifting all the boundary lines. So effectively, in a sense, not a big piece of any part of the county stays still because of the movement of the boundary lines.
How have they been affording it, quite frankly? That's a major endeavor to build that many schools. How are they affording it?
So we've had to build in front of, I'll say, the curve. As you may or may not know, and I know, Chairman Taylor, you've been here, the state will effectively allow you to draw down on capital funds based on certain criteria. Unfortunately, those criteria they weren't built for a high growth school district, for lack of a better phrase. So we have had to, as a county, take on additional debt that frankly we did not want to take down, but thankfully due to some, I'll say, shrewd budgeting and fiscal, I'll say, management, we've been able to start paying down that debt rather rapidly, but we had to take down greater debt than we wanted to in order to pay for the capital cost.
And part of that growth is what's helped you pay for them, and it's a double-edged sword. They're there, you've got to accommodate them, but thank you, and I'm proud you've been able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Taylor.
All right, thank you for those good questions. Next, we're going to go to Representative Anulowicz.
Thank you. I appreciate this. So, and I know that it's kind of specifically written for one county, but other counties could take advantage of this if they had another period of explosive growth. Is that correct? How many other counties do currently qualify? They fit in that 20% growth period. Is it just for Scythe?
For 41 through 45, Representative Nolowitz,
Yes,
the
yeah.
20% and the $250 million only for Scythe.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then my next question is, this is in line 47, I think. Yeah, line 47, or 48, sorry, talking about within any area of such school system. So, for example, like this morning, I'm just using this example because this morning in Creative Arts, we were talking about the town of Trilith, which is in the city of Fayetteville and Fayette County. That, I don't know what kind of impact that had on the school system, but I do know that that was a lot of density and a lot of housing put into an area that might not have had a lot of density necessarily beforehand. So if you're saying that if somebody comes in and they're in Forsyth County, which right now is the only county that currently meets the benchmarks, and there's a very high density development going in somewhere, the impact fee wouldn't necessarily be countywide. It would be just for that specific feeder pattern for the schools. I'm just trying to figure out and I'm not opposed to this. I'm just like the within any area of a school system is what I was looking for clarification on.
Yes. So Representative Manulowicz, you read that correct in 47 through 50. Okay. What we were thinking about there, to be frank with you, was really the future. We're talking about putting this into the Constitution, and this is enabling legislation. I can't speak for my board, but I've spoken to them to just get a sense of it. I don't expect us to have targeted areas within Forsyth County. I expect them to say, no, this is going to be Forsyth-wide, because at the end of the day, we are going to be maybe in the southern end where we have the big quarry project, which I don't want to get into too much detail.
Right.
We expect a massive explosion of population all the way to the northern end where we have a lot of greenfield. We still have buildings we need to shoot out of the ground. But we also felt, given the fact that this was a constitutional amendment, we did not want to just tailor it so much for the county that someone says to us, what were they thinking in 2024? Give them a little bit of leeway, maybe a decade from now.
And that actually, if you'll for one more question, that actually leads to another question that I had in line 92, which is so. And I think I figured this out as I was reading through the bill, but it says, the local board of education may at any time by resolution basically remove the fees if the growth assumptions change. So but they're not required to do that. But obviously this is the development by development. It's not an ongoing thing. It's a one-time impact fee.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just for new construction, one time.
Right.
So once you purchase that new home, let's say, if I buy it from you a year later, there's no additional impact fee. It's just the time you took it out of the ground, you got the certificate of occupancy, you're going to pay the impact fee, but then you sell to me a year later, I don't pay that impact fee.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take two more questions from two more members, starting with Representative Olaliye.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chairman Jones, for bringing this bill to us. Kind of a question, kind of a comment. I know you had called out specific types of projects that the local elected board would have discretion over choosing when to assess the impact fee and when not to. And the question being, I know those types and profiles of projects haven't been called out, and they would be able to pick and choose when to levy or impose those fees. And you feel comfortable with that? I guess the check and balance being that they, respond to the people if it goes sideways. But you're comfortable with kind of not calling out which project should or should not be on the receiving end of those impact fees?
Yes, sir, for two reasons, if you don't mind allow me to expound. First of all, our SPLOST, for instance, we effectively lay out a set of SPLOST projects, and then the public is made aware of what those SPLOST projects are, for instance, in a T-SPLOST. The second reason is I do not pretend, nor do I want Atlanta to rain down on 180 school districts if this ever becomes, I'll say, broader. So in my mind, whether or not they do have to use it, as Chairman Taylor said, for additional driveways or parking, or may it be for literally lifting the school out of the ground, whatever that may be, the fact is as growth is occurring, we are putting stress on the infrastructure. We have to be able to either do one of two things: have the existing tax digest take it up, or having the existing tax digest plus the folks that want to move into the high growth district. And I think the latter is a more equitable way to split the cost on the schools.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Representative Maynor, last question.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman Jones, quick question. Since the requirements right now are mainly for Forsyth County, even though in the future other local authorities may potentially be able to use the legislation, for Forsyth County, all of your elected officials are in support of the bill currently?
Yes.
That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, all right, yes. And that's in both chambers, our chamber and the lower chamber.
All right, good conversation. Do we have a motion to move this bill?
Move to pass. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, it moves.
Thank you.
Do you need to present the other bill to us?
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is if we get the enabling legislation through, that's right, we probably do need to have a due pass on the constitutional amendment. Yes, for the question.
All right, let's see if we can do that fairly quick. Yeah. Do you need that one in front of you?
Yes, I left everything at my office.
All right. All right, when you're ready, go ahead and proceed. And again, we passed this out of committee last year.
Yes, yes. So effectively, if you have HR 303, you'll see that 10 through 19 gives an explanation of what's occurring, and that's the underlying language, which effectively explains what's occurring inside of House Bill 585, which is the enabling legislation. And then 21 through 31 speaks to the question that would be posed. So I'll just be quiet here for a moment in terms of that question. If you have any questions for me, please, I guess, Mr. Chair, I'll allow you to facilitate that. But this effectively speaks to, would it permit and allow for the levy of school boards to impose impact fees?
Okay, I don't see any questions. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, it moves.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Anderson to preside while I present the next bill. And we will start with House Bill 974.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'll call on Chairman LaHood to present House Bill 974.
Okay, thank you. In House Bill 974, we're looking at a sub, and it's LC 472775S. This is the exact sub that I presented in subcommittee yesterday. And what this bill does is requires the pilot program that was put into law, previously, to become a permanent program to be maintained, and that is to provide digital scans online for citizens to view, digital scans of ballots, cast ballots. And so it specifies that all such scans shall have a resolution of no less than 200 DPI, dots per inch, on the ballots produced by the ballot marking devices. Section 2 deals with absentee ballots, and it's the same language. However, it says of these type of ballots, all such scans shall have a resolution of no less than 600 dots per inch, or the highest resolution possible within the certified voting system. And that is the bill. It passed out of, we did take a vote in subcommittee yesterday, and there was no opposition. And so if there's any questions, I'll be glad to take any.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Burnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't serve on elections, so I didn't hear any of the discussion. But what is the purpose of this? Who benefits from this?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion over the last few years from voters who wish to have more transparency. And this allows voters to see the ballots and count them, inspect them via a digital image.
Are they looking at their own ballots, or they'll be looking at other individuals' ballots?
They'll be looking at all 5 million or however many ballots are cast.
And the person's name will be on there?
No, there will be no identifying information.
Okay, and
on the
who
ballots.
pays for this?
Well, this is already a program that the Secretary of State's office has made provisions for. You know, they've already done this in a pilot program, and they're already taking steps to do this anyway. This bill would just require it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Alallier?
Appreciate it. Chair, just a quick clarifying question around how expansive is the network of the central offices? I know the absentee ballots and the 600 DPI minimum is limited to the central office scanners, not the local precinct scanners. I'm just trying to get a read on how expansive is that network. Are we talking 20, 30, 40 offices? And then within those offices, how many scanners would apply to, I'm just looking at lines 24 through 30. I don't really have a read on cost, and that's my biggest concern is just the budgetary impact.
So it's my understanding that there's a central office in every county that has the scanners which may have a higher capability of scanning at a higher resolution. But they're as we discussed in subcommittee, I believe you were there, that there's the software package that's been approved and certified may limit the resolution to a lower number than the 600 that I've got in the bill. That's why I added the language on line 28 after the comma that says, or the highest resolution possible.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Anulowicz?
With the absentee ballots, is only the ballot scanned, or the envelope scanned? I'm just wondering about the anonymity, and I'm also wondering, like, with the 600 DPI that's specific to absentees, is that because those are hand marked, and so you want to be able to see, you can zoom in and get more clarity?
That's right. Yeah, there's voters that have requested for a higher resolution on the absentees, and my intent and what I understand from the Secretary of State's team is that only the ballots are scanned, no other material that has any identifying information.
And then it's stored in the cloud, it's stored on servers. That's I would imagine is one of the biggest expenses, is the storage.
Ballots are being scanned already.
Right. Yeah, I just don't know, is it like an Amazon Web Services thing in the cloud, or is there like a giant server room that needs to be air conditioned and everything else?
I'm not sure where the storage is currently, and I do see some Secretary of State, team members in the room. They may be able to speak to that, but I don't believe there will be any added cost because the storage is already happening. And I'm getting a thumbs up from Mr. Teasley from the Secretary's office.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm satisfied if you want.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
We do have a couple more questions, if we may. Representative Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I think you might have just answered my question, and I wasn't in the subcommittee, but so you're saying that these ballots are already, the election staff already is scanning all of these ballots?
Correct. They're already being scanned and sent to the Secretary of State office.
Okay.
Now this will be a function, this bill, the pilot program has already been proven. But the bill will require the program to be maintained. So it's just the added function is the Secretary of State will now make them available to be viewed by the public.
Further question. So, if a citizen reviews them and comes up with a conclusion that, something has gone awry, what's the next step? I mean, do they then have authority to question? I mean, how would they use this information?
They would follow the same procedures that are in place today. If they had a claim,
Okay.
those procedures would remain in place.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, Representative Burnell.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. How long will you maintain storage of someone's ballot?
The length of time, I'm not changing any statutory requirements, for the length of time a ballot is stored. And I don't remember exactly what the current, code requires.
The Secretary of State?
Mr. Teasley, could you answer that for us?
I will get that answer.
Okay, maybe okay. He may be able to get the answer while we're still in here today, but
Okay.
if not.
And I have one more other
Okay.
question. Who does the scanning? Who's the
the
who's
poll workers.
individual? So they'll be scanning, like, my poll is at New Macedonia Baptist Church, so they're gonna scan there that evening? I
If
mean,
that's
when
where you
does
vote.
this happen?
This is already happening. They're
No.
already scanning.
But I'm saying, is that when they scan? That's when they'll do it?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Maynor, and then we'll have one more question, and then we'll call the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Just point of clarity, during subcommittee, someone from the Secretary of State's office did say that all of the scanners are the same scanner, same model number, and then they actually said the number of scanners that are available throughout the state of Georgia.
Thanks for clarifying that.
All right, and Representative Anulowicz.
wanted to just clarify. My understanding is that when I go to Smyrna 3A and I cast my ballot, I'm actually the one putting the ballot into the scanner. That's how you cast your ballot. Is I'm actually scanning my own ballot. I wanted to get that point of clarification out there, but I also wanted to. It's my understanding that these are already there because they are scanned. They're already subject to open records request. I would hope that this might actually make it easy on some of our county boards of elections. Is that something that this may result in?
That is my hope. I know there's been other proposed measures to, make ballots available, the physical ballots available. This is, possibly, an alternative to that. And I'm glad you brought that up. You're right. Voters are scanning their own ballots.
Okay.
I forgot to bring that up when you asked the question earlier.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, committee, and excuse me. At this time, we're in a posture to entertain a motion. We have a motion to pass. Do we have a second? Second. With a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yes. No. Okay, we have one opposition. Motion carries. Bill passes out of committee. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, you have the House Bill 977.
Yes, thank you. And so we'll go right into House Bill 977. This bill was also heard in subcommittee 2 different times. This is a sub with some minor changes from yesterday, and it's LC 472783S. The intent of this bill is to expand the number of hand count verifications, otherwise known as risk limiting audits, are done after an election, but before the election is certified. So this bill, and this bill also addresses on line 19, does address the margin of error or the statistical probability of accuracy. In rule, the state election board has set a 10% threshold. The Secretary of State's office tells me they're already holding themselves to a 5% threshold. So you'll see on lines 19 through 22 how the statistical probability starts at 8 this year and then ticks down 2% every 2 years until it gets to 2% by 2030. And okay, and then on line 26 is the section that talks about the contests that will be subject to audits. And so what happens is the top of ballot race will always get audited, and then a statewide race. And the statewide race would be selected by there would be 5 members, 5 people who would select that race. And the idea is that they would select the race that had the most compelling reason to get an audit. Maybe it was close, or there's extra public attention on it for whatever reason. But those 5 people would be the governor, lieutenant governor, speaker of the House, minority leader from the Senate, minority leader from the House. And then let's see. On line 66, it says, nothing in this code section shall prevent an election superintendent from conducting risk-limiting audits in additional contests if circumstances warrant the auditing of one or more additional contests than those required in the code section. So it just leaves the door open if a election superintendent determines that there's a need to do additional audits. So I'll take any questions if there are any.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I missed this yesterday. In the original one, it also had state legislative races being audited, and that now you're saying no state leg races will be audited? Am I reading that correctly?
You are reading it correctly. So I did scale back the number of races that are being required to be audited, and this is in response to concerns about overburdening election staff and just the reality of the time it takes to audit so many races. And that's why I added the language starting on line 66 that gives the election superintendent the option of auditing additional races if they deem it necessary.
I'm not crazy about that.
Okay, thank you. And Representative Bazemore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think yesterday there was a question that was brought up about having individuals that are selecting the contest that would be running also for office, and that was a concern. Was that addressed at all?
What I did in response to a similar concern was added the minority leaders from each chamber on the list of people who would be selecting. And the idea for these specific individuals making this decision is just for added accountability, and where the Secretary of State is administering elections, and so we felt it was a good move to for someone other than the Secretary of State to determine which races are audited.
So would there have to be a consensus among the individuals?
It would be a majority.
Okay.
Out of the 5.
Okay, thank you. Representative Nolowitz?
Yes, so with regards to the statewide contest, like this November, I don't know if there are any statewide contests on the ballot. There's federal, but there aren't any statewide offices.
Right, so in that case, it would just be the top of ballot.
Only the top of the ballot? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Representative Burnell, we're going to take 2 more questions.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. What is why do we need this? What's the difference between what we're currently doing and how will this improve?
I would say the difference is that currently the Secretary of State is choosing a race to be audited, and it's only one race that's required. This is adding the possibility of a second race to be audited, and it's changing how that race is chosen.
Okay. How much is the additional cost for this to be done?
There's no exact way to know. It's basically one race is already audited now, and so we're adding one more race, and so it would be the time, whatever cost of the time it takes at the local level to do that.
And my last question is, will that cause a delay in certifying the elections?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, and Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to amend.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I'd like to make a motion to make a friendly amendment and see if the chair will accept it.
Okay, I think we need to take a motion to do pass before we. Okay, Representative Williams. One last question, please.
Okay, so does this completely take the Secretary of State out of the loop? The Secretary of State can no longer request an audit?
So on line 66, where it says an election superintendent, nothing shall prevent an election superintendent from conducting a risk limiting audit. So the Secretary of State considered the election superintendent for races. It's my understanding for races that exceed more than one county. So any state house, well, not any, but a state General Assembly race that spans more than one county, or another statewide race, or a number of other races.
May I ask if the Secretary of State's office has an opinion or on this bill?
I have had several conversations with the Secretary of State's team, and they have given input on the bill.
Okay, I mean, are they opposing the bill? Are they supporting the bill?
They have not informed me that they're opposing the bill. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
Okay, at this point, we'd be in the posture to take a motion. We have a move to pass and a second. We do have a second. Representative Roberts, did you want to?
I was just hoping to make a motion. I understand statewide races are completely burdensome, no doubt. But to say that we're not going to audit a smaller race, to me, gives me pause. So I was just wondering if there was any way that we could go back to one state legislative race drawn out of the hat by the Secretary of State, because that's only what we represent 60,000 people. That's not 5 million votes. Just to make sure that we're getting a picture across all sides of races. That would be my.
Are you proposing that we add?
Yes.
Add that
not
back
take
to the
away,
list?
but
Not
just
take
yeah.
away? Okay.
If I may, are you making a motion?
I am making a motion to make
please,
a friendly
please.
amendment to add. I guess it would be. I wish I had the old bill back.
I think I have an original.
Basically, I guess it would be to add a C and have a state legislative race audited to be selected by, drawn out of a hat by the Secretary of State. I believe that's what that one said, but.
So I'll tell you what the concern was.
Okay.
On that I've heard from others, and that is with the 180 state house districts, it could be difficult for election boards. It would be randomly selected, so nobody would know which one's going to be selected.
Right.
And so I'm not sure how many counties or how much of even one county your district encompasses to. Okay, I know there's a lot in heavily populated areas that are confined to just a few precincts, and there's others like some of my friends in rural parts of the state who have several counties, and so the impact. I think the concern was that the impact of the randomly selected audits for a state house race would just not be predictable.
Okay.
Okay, excuse me, Representative Roberts, if you wish to make a motion, can you please verbalize the motion and tell us where it would go?
So it would be in, I make a motion to amend section 212498, section 4, to add section C, that at least one state legislative race would be audited to be selected by a hat, drawing out of a hat by the Secretary of State.
Basically restoring the language that
Whatever
that was there.
I just don't have it in front
for
of me.
this,
So I'm-
for a state house race.
Yes.
Or would you be open to a general assembly race, Senate or state house?
That's fine. No. Yeah. Yes. Yes. After line 34, yes. Yes. I don't know. I think he's got it. Yes.
Okay, at this moment, what I'm going to do is, due to the fact that to clarify the language, get everything properly situated, I don't think the motion is in order at this moment, okay? We just conferring with the author, this is to go back to incorporating the language from the original bill into what's here now. It's not as much as there's opposition to that, it's just being able to verbalize in a form that we can put it into a final version at this moment to do that. So I would recommend that that we confer with Ledge Council and determine and possibly even confer, assuming we have a motion and a second for due pass on the bill. I'm just, as chair, I'm going to make a motion to disregard or make a determination to disregard Representative Roberts' motion at the moment, and we will address any further comments with the commitment to work with the author to see where we can take care of that, either on this side or on the, as Chairman Jones said, in the lower chamber, if we have to, if we can't do something between here and rules, if that's acceptable to the committee. So we do have a few people with their lights open. We are in a posture of discussion regarding the motion and the second. Representative Maynard.
Thank you, Chair. My question was for line 66 through 68. Does that potentially reflect that the risk limiting audit could be a state house seat? You know, do lines 66 through 68 cover what Representative Roberts is seeking?
That is how I interpret this, and that was the intent of this language, so that additional rates could be audited if it was deemed necessary.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Anulowicz?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question about line 58. So we have, line 50 through 60 very clearly discusses, the group of 5. They have a deadline. It's 11 a.m. on the Thursday following the Tuesday election. But if those 5 elected people can't agree, what I'm reading is that the contest shall be selected by the chairperson of the state election board. Is it correct then that if the 5 elected people can't agree on which election to look at, then an appointed official is then the one who makes that decision?
That is correct.
Okay, at the appropriate time, I might like to discuss having an amendment that would change that state election board chair to the Secretary of State. So at least we'd have an elected person making that choice.
This would be the appropriate time if you can verbalize your amendment.
Yes, at the appropriate time, I would like to make an amendment to change line 58 from reading the chairperson of the state election board to the Secretary of State.
Okay, and is that in the form of a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion regarding this motion? Yes. Representative Maynard?
Thank you. So in reference to 50 through 60, the 5 elected officials, they're voting on who is selected. So there can't be a tie, which means that I'm agreeing with the amendment, but the likelihood that there would not be an agreement is minimal if there are 5 people voting on the races to be audited. Is that correct? Or
That is how I see it, that there will be, a lot of incentive for this group of 5 individuals to make a decision.
But we live in interesting times.
Okay, we're still in discussion on the motion for the amendment. Representative Bernal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a statement that in terms of transparency, I'm not sure why we would not want our own elections to be audited, because of the fact that a lot of the discussion is that our elections aren't valid. So I think that we at this governing body should also want to have ours audited. So therefore, it's not a conflict that only the 5 at the top are audited and then everybody else is okay. I can say I won and not really worry about the others.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any further comment on the motion for the amendment? If not, we are in the posture of taking a vote. All those in favor of the Anulowicz amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. No. Okay, in the opinion of the chair, let's do a hand vote, just to make sure. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I count 7. All opposed, raise your hand. Okay, motion does not carry. The amendment will not go forward. So now we are back to the do pass motion on the original bill. We've already had discussion. Unless anyone has any additional motions, I see a light blinking. Representative Maynard?
I'm so sorry. For point of clarity, the state election board is a nonpartisan position. The chair.
Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're to the vote on the passage or do pass on, oh, I'm sorry.
Just one
yes.
point of clarification. I believe
Representative Gaines.
every member of the House voted to confirm our state elections board chair just last week. Isn't that right? Thank you.
Okay. On the passage of House Bill 977 from this committee, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, we'll do a hand vote. All in favor of the passage out of committee of 977, please raise your hands. Okay, 8. All opposed, raise your hand. Okay. Bill does pass out of committee onto rules. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And at this time, I will turn the meeting back over to you, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe we've got one more bill on the agenda for today, and it's Vice Chairman Victor Anderson's bill, House Bill 1044. This is a bill that did pass this committee last year and actually passed both chambers. Made it to the governor's office, and it was vetoed because the governor had a recommendation, and that I believe that change has been made, and Representative Anderson is going to present that now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, House Bill 1044, working from LC 472715. This is a redo. Okay, originally last year I carried House Bill 193. It passed this committee, it passed the House, it passed through Senate committee, and passed the Senate vote. Went to the governor's desk. It was vetoed because it did not address some of the things the governor's advisors in his office wanted it to address. And specifically what it did is, what the bill does, we're increasing the public works purchasing limit from $100,000 to $250,000. The $100,000 was put in place in the year 2000, so it's 24 years old now. Has had no adjustment for any type of inflationary factors, any type of cost adjustments for 24 years. We originally did this all in Title 36, which covers only county and state and county and city or local government purchasing. The governor's office wanted it to include other state agencies in the same provision. So we have rewritten the bill to include references to Title 13, a couple of references to Title 20, of course Title 36, which is the original bill, and then also to Title 50. This version of the bill has been circulated through the governor's office. It's been circulated through all of the departments, statewide departments that are affected and could potentially be affected, and actually had some of the departments such as GDOT who came back and said we don't want to be included in that because we have our own purchasing arrangements that we deal and work fine within. So, Mr. Chairman, I present this to the committee for consideration, and we'll answer any questions as they come up.
Do we have any questions for Representative Anderson? I don't see any. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of passage, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. It moves. All right, our meeting, that conducts our business for today, so our meeting is adjourned.